What up, everybody? Welcome to the IAG Thursday Thing, this thing that we do every Thursday where we hang out, get to meet some new people, maybe accidentally learn something. Basically what's going on within the Subaru community and, the IAG community. And these always tend to be a really good time. But I tell you what, some of my favorite episodes are when we get to bring on shops. I really like these talking shop segments. Because you get to talk to the people who are actually out there doing it. And a lot of shop history tends to be really interesting. You learn a lot about the people behind some of the stuff you see in the community. And I just think it's one of the coolest things. So I'm super excited. I've been trying to get these guys on. I can't even explain to you. I bet you we're at a year now of trying to get you guys on this show. But we finally managed to pull it off, and today we have the cats from Houston from Kozmic on the show, and I am super excited. We've got Onix and David from Kozmic. What's up, guys?
Oh, we just had to make you really work for it,
Yeah.
Big build up. Build up.
Yeah. Only to let everybody down.
So, are you guys under 3 feet of water or 200 degrees? Like you're.
It depends what time of the day.
Yeah, I heard you guys are getting some serious weather down there right now.
Here right now, it's kind of not anything near what they said it was gonna be. It's not raining at the moment. It's actually extremely hot outside right now. So it was pretty rainy yesterday, but not heavy, deep, crazy rain like we're used to with big storms. But
yeah.
Rain.
Nah, we're gonna be flooded up to our neck.
Yeah, no, I think we missed kind of a lot of that.
So I actually was poking around, looking at info for your shop, and I went on a little side tangent. I didn't realize how big Houston actually was. I had no idea it was the 4th largest city in the U.S. Houston's massive. Yes. I don't know why I thought Houston was smaller than like Dallas. It's not at all. It's giant. It's like twice the size of Dallas. It's just behind Chicago. That's crazy.
I think it's the 3rd largest city, or I don't know.
According to Google, you're still 4th, but not by much.
Yeah.
So you guys got quite the market down there. So Kozmic, where'd the name come from?
Well, so it actually started with Eric. Oddly enough, the name actually came from a screen name or his username, and it's kind of a nickname that he had from old motorcycle days, but just kind of stuck with him. And whenever him and I started the shop, that's just the direction we went. And he said, "Oh, this sounds like pretty neat." I was like, "You know what? It's different and it's really weird." And it's nice that it's so unique. It's really not awesome whenever you go to make a phone call to a new vendor or something like that, because nobody spells it right ever.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of mistaken emails.
Whatever. I mean, if that's so, I see JJ in the crowd. He may not appreciate this, but there are a million different companies out there that are 3-letter companies. You know what I mean? And it's always cool to see. I always appreciate when somebody names their company something.
Well, just so you know, our old shop name was 3 letters.
Yeah.
They're always 3 letters.
It start as that whenever we changed it. So
yeah.
we used to be a division of SSP, and it was SSP Texas for a while, and then we got a divorce, so to speak, and then we changed the name after that.
Sure. I don't know. I dig it. I think it looks cool on the side of cars. You got a cool logo. It works out. So, when'd you guys open?
2011 is whenever we moved into the building we're in right now. We were doing stuff a little bit before that, but basically 2011.
Okay. So that's really when it started kicking off, was 2011.
Yeah.
Nice. So, yeah. So you guys have been around a minute. Were you guys immediately into Subarus, or were you messing around with other stuff and then Subarus kind of came along, or were you guys just instantly working on all sorts of cars? Because you guys, you go take a look at your website or whatever. Don't get me wrong. We know you a lot from Subarus and the stuff you've done with Subarus, but you guys have done like GTRs and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so we're actually, well, I don't know that we would use the term now, but what we started out was an import shop in general, but with main platform focus on the Evos. And the Evo kind of I'll say we built our name and our reputation up with, to a national level and even internationally in some aspects. But, we're pretty renowned for our work with the SST dual clutch transmission in the Evo 10. We hold like every record there is to hold in regards to those, and we build hundreds of those things, and that's kind of our main thing that we get into, and what we got our name built onto. And then naturally coming with working on Evos works on Subarus. So the Subarus started trickling in the beginning, a few here and there, and then realized that was going to be obviously significantly higher volume market than what the Evo is, and things just kind of drifted that direction. And I think, when we first started, we were in 99% Evos, 1% anything else, and now we're probably, I don't know, I'd say probably 70% of our work through the shop at least is Subaru.
That was actually going to be my next question, is what kind of is the percentage? 70%. Holy crap.
Yeah.
So you guys do a lot of Subarus. You wouldn't, again, this is pure ignorance on my part, of understanding how big the Houston area is. Like that's a pretty decent volume of cars then. You guys are moving some stuff through there.
Yeah, we definitely move through some cars. On the Evo side of things, we're, since we have such a reputation, actually, now more so than even before, but we bring in cars from all over the US. Very commonly that, half of the Evos on the property are actually not from the Houston area. They'll be from, not even in Texas. They'll be from all over the place, New York, Washington, anywhere. Sure. The guys are shipping the Evos in kind of everywhere. So usually more so than not with the SST trans and getting it in here for a build and doing the transmission and everything else with it. But we still do a lot of the manual transmission cars too. Then, locally, a large portion of the Evos here in Houston are obviously built and supported here by us, but there's only so many. So
there's only so many of them even built, really. And now, you're probably running into situations like you're starting to see with the GD chassis STI, where it probably even more so, where people are they're looking at a Morris Classics. So you get one way or the other. You're not seeing people daily drive them anymore. They're either trying to, maintain them and keep them nice, or they're full blast race cars. There's no in between.
Yeah, it's like the 8-9 market that we see in here has kind of done that, where
the
guys are either driving a pretty clapped out beater of a car that is what we call the DSM of today.
Yes.
Or they bring in the cars that are like, oh my God, this thing would pull like $1 bajillion on and bring a trailer, and they're like super clean and nice.
So you guys got a lot of background in the Evo platform, and obviously you have a bunch of background in the Subaru platform. What do you prefer to work on?
Both, really. I mean, if we're, all things
he's gonna be all political about this. There's got to be stuff that just drives you nuts about either of them.
Both, for sure, definitely. Yeah. So, typically the Evo owners are the percentage of clientele that is more open to larger builds, if that makes sense. Like not even big builds, but more extensive builds in the right direction is typically the Evo guy. And the Subaru customers who will kind of like really spend the money to do it right are significantly lesser percentage, if that makes sense. Like there's a lot of them because there's a lot of volume, but the percentage of the guys that come in the door and say like, I want this done like 500,000% right, that percentage is lower.
Yes. And I'm sure that's Subarus in general to a certain degree. That's just kind of that owner group, and in some ways you're always going to have, there's definitely the psychopaths out there of both both sides, but it can be rough. Yep, I get it. So
the Subaru has a wider clientele.
Yeah.
So you got the kids and the younger side of it, and then at the same time, we have like 80-year-old customers coming in here with STIs, which is like beyond me, but super awesome at the same time.
Yeah.
The Evo, the clientele window is a little bit, shorter and smaller.
Yep. No, for sure. And it's probably this pretty close to the same demographic of person who comes in with an Evo and says, I want to go nuts.
Yeah.
Yep. It's we actually, when I was working at Six Star Motorsports in Chicago, across the street from us was Strictly Modified, which was a DSM Evo shop.
Yep. Yeah.
And our clientele was so drastically different. And it was funny because we'd see that it was really different from the type of person who walk into that shop versus the type of person who walk into our shop. And we used to do like block parties and stuff together, and you'd get those two owner groups together, and it was different. It was fun, don't get me wrong, but it's different. Different group for sure. Yeah. So what got you into cars, man? Like, what got you personally into cars? What got you going? What was your first car?
My first car was a 98 Frontier.
Nice.
I had my first personal car.
Yeah.
I had a Mazda 3 that kind of started the modding side of things, and turboing that, building my own turbo kit for it and everything like that's kind of what got me into, garage clunking around, being young and having fun with that. And then ever since I saw my first Evo 8 in person, I was like, I want one of those. And so that's what I started working for.
What year was that?
2006, 2007.
Oh, you kids are babies.
Wait.
Well, Onix is the older one here, actually.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear Onix's situation.
I am 40 years old, but I look like I'm 28.
Right, I know the feeling, my guy. I'm 42 and look like I'm 18.
So I started with Hondas, like every other older guy.
Yeah, we all did back in the day, dude.
Yeah,
if you're in your 40s, you started in Hondas.
Yeah, so I've been doing performance stuff since like 2004.
Okay.
I built my first Honda. It was a Honda Accord. I did a K24, K20 in 2004.
Wow, that's crazy early for K Series. That's crazy early for K Series.
Yeah, I was probably the first one that did that.
Yeah.
Before that, I had a 92 hatchback, and of course, I did the whole in Houston street racing thing.
Oh, yeah.
And my first car, it was that, but then I had a 91 Integra DA, and then I had my parents in high school gave me a 1990 Toyota Celica ST.
Nice.
Yeah, and I just went up from there. But my first car that I really wanted, of course, was an Evo 8, and that was in 2004 or 5. And I got it as soon as I started working at Kozmic, which was a year after they opened. So I've been here since pretty much day one, pretty close. But I worked at other shops.
Kozmic opened in 2011. Evos were still especially the 8-9 community was still hot.
Oh, yeah.
And you could still pick those cars up for a reasonable price, like a clean one now is getting insane.
Oh man, if we would have bought all those cars back then.
Yeah, right. And not only that, stuff back then you'd go, dude, this is a total claptrap. You'd be like, yeah, I'd pay good money for that now.
Well, I bought my Evo, which is still down. We could talk about that some other time. It's been down for 10 years. But I bought mine for $13,500 with 80,000 miles.
Running, driving,
bone stock. The only modification they had was they removed the air filter. And I just thought it sounded that cool until I saw that it had no air filter.
Bro, that thing's going to be worth a mint and you get that thing back up.
Oh, yeah. There's too much going on in there. So
my buddy, Jeremy Boysen, paid a ridiculous amount of money for an extraordinarily low mile, super clean 9MR, like mint 9MR in white. And I think he might start it 3 times a year. Like he just doesn't touch it. and it's parked next to a Lamborghini, like to give you an idea of the kind of collector he is. So he's
those cars, man, they're so fun to drive. They need to be enjoyed.
They really are. You know, the thing that I really, if there's any one thing that I took away from the Evo that I wish the STI had, they got kind of close with a VA, but really didn't, was the extremely linear, beautiful, quick steering rack. The steering always just absolutely murdered anything they ever put in the STI. I wasn't really a fan of the trans. The interior to me always felt kind of cheap. But man, that steering was great, and you'd put some decent tires on it and just take it to the track like that with good tires on it, and it was incredible. I've got to drive a few like that, and they're incredibly good right out of the box.
But we know that Subaru is superior. Wink.
Yo, I haven't been beat by an Evo in 3 years.
Must not be racing the right.
Maybe
Evo.
4. Yeah, I don't know. You guys got to put an Evo together, I guess. Come shut me up. I'm easy to find, my guy. Speaking of Subarus and really fast Subarus, supposedly you guys got some ridiculously fast VA. I saw a video that I'm pretty sure was photoshopped. I think it's AI. Showing you guys going 805. That is ridiculous, guys.
Yeah, I think kind of surprised all of us, honestly. Like, we knew it was going to go fast. We knew it was going to get there. I'd say that at the end, I don't know that it came easier than what we thought it would, but it came earlier than we thought it would.
Yeah,
I guess we'll say that.
It took like a year.
Yeah, it took a year.
Well, everything takes development time, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's been people who have been working for a lot longer than a year trying to get anywhere near that.
But when I say a year, I mean more like the events.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, at the end of the day, like we always knew that, you know, we've built some fast cars, and while we didn't have, you know, I'll say relevance in the Subaru industry, you know, other than, you know, taking care of our local clients and everything like that.
Sure.
You know, we weren't known on a national level, and you know, we were approached by Omar, who owns Gaparu, and what they were trying to do with the car, and
Yep.
we mainly started with him just to help him, like, last minute get the car to make passes at Texas 2K. You know, was that 3 years ago now or something? Yeah. And after that, he realized what could be, and that, you know, what our team can offer, and what we were willing to do to keep going. And then him and I sat down, and he told me what he wanted to do, and we just kind of went with it. And it was neat that we had a customer that would give us that faith and trust, and see that, you know, we had potential to do what we said we could do. I never told them that we would go that fast. Mainly started out
that's the thing with builds like that, is you can't really put a number on it. You can go, we're going to try to shoot for this, but like, you can't say, I guarantee it's going to do this, because you can't. You can't guarantee that.
You wanted an 9, I think it was.
Whatever the VA record
8,
was.
6.
Yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't even that fast, because then and then Tyler beat it, and then it was like, oh, we got to go after Tyler now, and it was like, thanks for raising the bar for us, guys. But, you know, it was kind of a long time coming. With, you know, we took a little bit of our stuff that we've learned through different aspects of the car and different platforms that we worked with, and you know, obviously throughout the years, I made a lot of good connections and contacts with other people in the industry to kind of help make informed decisions on which way to go with, like, suspension and stuff like that on, you know, a platform that we haven't drag raced before, right? So, like, we had the red car, the WX, and, you know, we kind of threw a street car together and went pretty quick with that. It kind of, in my opinion, that car got kind of underplayed and never really hyped up like I thought it should have been for what it did. But, you know, it just kind of, everybody's like, oh, that's cool. It's just a WX.
Yeah. By the red car, he meant we had a 2018 FA WRX. We went 980 on it. And so far, we still hold that record. And that was like, what, 5?
Only WX in the 9.
Yeah, the only WRX in the 9.
I don't think people, even to this day, you should see the kind of phone calls I get. They don't realize how hard it is to make serious power with an FA. They just don't.
Right? It's funny.
So they'll call up and they just think it's like an EJ where you can just, there's a beaten path to 1,000 wheel or something. There's not, and we're still as a community still learning a lot about the FA and what makes it work. So the fact that you guys did that, even when you did it, is insane. But I don't think that community really gets how big of a deal that was. That's massive.
And while we don't have 1,000 mapped out, I'd say the road to, well, I don't know, everybody's dyno read's different these days.
Yeah.
We got an unmanipulated Mustang over here for whatever that's worth. And
Right.
I'd say the road to like 800-ish, like right around 800 Mustang here, I'd say that we have pretty paved. And like prime example of that is like the red car was like a full weight AC, like brand new car. I went and bought brand new, and we kind of went up through bolt-ons and everything, and then did the motor. And I sold that car. It had 3,000 miles on it when I was done. And because I said, we want to go faster, but I don't want to cut this car up. New car. Mm-hmm. And so I got a salvage title car that had been fixed, which is the blue one I have now. It's funny enough because same color as Omar's car, so everybody mixes them up all the time. But car, we literally just said, okay, bust out the recipe book, hit all this stuff right back in it. Car makes like 750. First time I take the car out, which was actually a Texas 2K, we go 9s in that car too. They're right off the bat.
That's sick. Like, and again, I don't think people realize that. I don't know. Maybe it's something we can even do on our part to promote that a little better, to explain why that's a big deal. Because I really don't think people realize how big of a deal that really is. That is screaming. Right.
We actually have are like ready to go out and go fast now. It's kind of just been hanging out, waiting its turn, so to speak. We just have so much going on, so many projects and everything going on around here that just hasn't been time to go to the track. And then I'm sure you've seen, like, they closed our main track here. On World Purple.
Yep, I saw that. That's where Texas 2K was ran all the time, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
So that's our home quarter-mile track is gone. So now we got to drive, anywhere between 2.5 to 4.5 hours, depending on where you want to go.
Is there really not another quarter-mile track around a city that big?
Nope, that's it. There's 8th mile. That's
unreal, man.
But not a quarter.
Yeah, you probably got like 5 8th mile tracks.
One.
One.
Jeez, what the hell is going on in Houston?
It's really good. It's only 20 minutes from us, so it's nice. But we never get there still somehow.
So let's chat about Gaparoo a little bit. So Omar brings you this car. I'm assuming it already been named at that point, so it probably already was fairly modified. Like at about what point did you guys get it? And where did you decide to take it from there?
Bader had just done a full refresh, build change. I don't even know what all he did. So it's got the badass Bader fab. It's not Bader fab, but his specs turbo kit. Up in that light. It came here. I don't know what turbo it had on it. 75 Gen 1. Yeah, and he carried the car all the way down here. Basically, it ran and had a brand new motor and everything, and it's supposed to get tuned by another tuner that they didn't get time to do it, and they didn't get time to do it here. And obviously, Omar had just transported the car from Washington State to Texas to go to this event, and then he can only drive it in and out of the trailer is basically all it's useful for. Yeah. And so he was begging and pleading us to tune the car in the middle of the night. And finally I was like, okay, you know what, why not? And so, we took it on, we started on it, realized we had some issues going on, and we put the mad scientist on here into checking over and fixing a bunch of little tiny odds and ends, some leaking hoses and stuff like that.
Who does the tuning there, if you don't mind me asking?
So kind of a combination and options here, so to speak. But there's Eric, who is the previous owner here.
Sure.
Myself, I typically will do like some of the general ECU setup, especially when we're getting like standalone cars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then we have Mike Atkins. We've been working with him for since before we opened the shop. We've been working
Okay.
at Mike.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just that was something that hit me. I was like, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, the car had like no shakedown time, obviously, at all. So some little headaches came up. We got that squared away, and then we got it tuned and made all kinds of power. And him and his buddies took the car out, did some Mexico tests, and were very happy with what it was doing. And came time to go run at the event and at Texas 2K, and we went to do the first qualifying pass, and Omar actually let Josh Spader drive the car. He was going to drive it for the event. And they do the burnout, and then he goes up, stages on the line, and as soon as he goes to launch, it shears the front input off the rear diff, clean it up, drags the drive shaft everywhere right off the bat.
That'll do her.
Yeah. We pushed her back, and it was funny because Josh goes up to me, he goes, man, he's like, I'll tell you, the car idles awesome, it runs awesome, it moves around the pits awesome, it comes up on the launch controls like so smooth, and the car's so linear. He's like, my limited time driving it, I was like, yeah, the 40-foot burnout you did. He's like, it was great. It's like, oh, I'll take that as a compliment. And so obviously Omar didn't have another rear diff with him, and I was like, man, we're here. I got my whole team out here trying to support this car, and it's Texas 2K. You got to kind of pull out all the stops. So I called up one of my other technicians who wasn't out at the event, and he's sitting at home, and I said, hey, you want to make some extra money? And I sent him to the shop, and I had my FA on the lift that conveniently was just sitting there, and had him rip the rear end and the drive shaft out of that and bring it out to us at Baytown, which is like an hour drive, right then and there, because this was the last day for qualifying, and if we didn't get a full pass in, we weren't making the event. And so we did that, and he hot-footed it out there to the track, and we started getting the car up, getting everything stripped out, and getting the new stuff in. As soon as he got there, we were crunching every minute, just scrambling. And we didn't have our whole trailer and tools and race rig, so to speak. We were kind of just out there supporting him in a physical fashion. So we were working with what they had brought. And, then it was got to drill the diff for the drive shaft and everything, and trying to track down a drill bits and all kinds of stuff, and drilling this stuff on lift. And they're sitting there calling last call, and it was like we missed it by, I don't know, had to have been less than a minute.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Running, we're filling it with fluid, and I'm like, get Josh over here now, screaming at him. And as soon as he gets it, we literally drop the car off the jacks. He's already in it, it's running. He takes off like a Formula One pit crew driver, just gets up there, and they're like, nope, you're too late. He's like, dude, you just called the last call right now over the phone. He's like, yeah, it's called last call for a reason.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah,
that sucks, man.
So, but he got to take the car out, do some
we're supposed to race it the next day,
evening activities.
Yeah, I mean,
we were gonna,
Mexico happens.
Yeah, we were gonna do like what was it? We were gonna let us do test and tune or something like that. And so we were like, oh, we can still make a couple passes with it. But so we went out and did some Mexico stuff, and with that turbo kit up there, the headlight is like, I don't know, an inch away from the turbo, the inlet on the compressor. And I was like, you really need to take this headlight out. Obviously when I had the car on the dyno, I took the headlight out to feed it some fresh air and everything. I was like, you need to be really careful when you put this headlight back in. And they had the rubber boot on the back of the lens, that seals it off.
I already see where this is going.
They put the headlight back in and sent her on the high map that night, and went ahead and sucked that rubber boot right into that turbo and destroyed the compressor wheel on it. So needless to say, we didn't test and tune the next day.
That'll do her, bud.
Yeah. But no, after that, he realized that, the juice is worth the squeeze, so to speak, on what we could do and what we could bring to the table with it. And then
Sure. A
From
lot of that's
there,
relationships too. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
yeah,
sure he sees that you guys are killing yourselves for him. You know, that goes a
yeah,
long way.
yeah, definitely. So, obviously, it's a bigger car. We knew that if it could Texas 2K is kind of a main stage event. So, you
Yep,
know, racing a Subaru out there is a big deal. And
it is.
so, we knew that if we could put our logo on it and get out there, that it'd be worth us putting a little bit of time into it. So, from there, I told Omar, I said, man, it'd be cool if, like really get after it with this car. Like there's some potential here. It had, um, a decent motor in it and, big turbo kit and a reasonable fuel system and everything in it. The car was making, I don't remember what it was, like 950 or something like that here. And, um, it had promising capacity to it.
Yeah,
And so,
the bones were there to do big things.
yeah, yeah. So from there, he decided, I offer like a kind of a sponsorship deal and let us logo and use the car up and let's go have some fun. And, from there, that's kind of what we built off of, was just finding the next weak point and the next weak point and then the next weak point. Luckily, there wasn't too many. So, but we went through some decent sized changes on the car. He had a Motec ECU sitting there, and but not installed. We had originally tuned out Cobb, and so step one for us was get the Motec in there. And
I
then,
bet you that was night and day.
yeah, oh for sure. I mean,
It's hard to explain to people why that matters if they don't know, and it is night and day.
yeah, we started out with like the base. He already had the basic reed package on there, and
Sure.
that's what we started tuning the car with and using it. We made some other changes, like switching it up to. He already had 8 injectors. We changed some of the initial fuel system stuff up. One of the first things we did was put our mechanical fuel pump kit on there. So
Yeah.
we ran out of fuel pump real quick. Like he had, I don't remember what, 450s or 525s with boosted
Yeah,
pump.
he was running some probably dual pump setup. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the end of that real fast.
Yeah.
It back not that long ago, that was really your only option. There's some really cool like brushless options now, but like you guys' mechanical setup is pretty badass.
Yeah, and shockingly, once ever, obviously we went fast and people saw like, oh, it works, now we're selling quite a few of them.
Yep.
And it's hard to explain to a customer, but if even the shops, like if they haven't played with mechanical fuel pump stuff before, it really is just so awesome. It's quiet, doesn't make heat, it's dependable and reliable, and it just brings all the fuel and never an issue with it because it's RPM based, right? So you don't have to worry about all these regulator issues and elevated
your
base.
fuel pump becomes a supercharger.
Yeah, but it does it quietly and effectively.
Yeah.
So it was kind of funny. We'd only done a couple of mechanical setups. In the first one I did was on my Rally Art or Evo, same thing. And that's what sold me on it immediately. I was like, dude, I don't know why every high horsepower car doesn't use a mechanical pump. And that's what we do. All the big power cars, that aren't,
Are steering dependent.
Power steering dependent. Yeah, we do the mechanical pump on, and even now, like even the we started doing is on the big power cars that want power steering, is we just convert them to electric power steering.
Yep.
And do that.
What do you
instead.
guys use for electric power steering on your stuff?
We've been using the Volvo pumps.
Yep.
Lately, so which is pretty common in the aftermarket industry. A lot of support. A lot of guys using that.
For sure. I'd actually really like to see how you guys got that set up because it's something I've kind of wanted to do on the on my own personal car. So
yeah, we've done quite a few on the Evos. I think we have a Subaru build coming up that we're doing one on. We're doing that. So one of the things that we're trying to do is trying to figure out how to produce some of these like more custom drag oriented products and being able to turn around and make them into a manufacturable product. And
yes,
bringing some of that stuff out, like the mechanical fuel pumps. I did that because we had a need, right? Like we needed this, we want this, and it was actually supposed to be for our personal Subaru drag car that we were going to build. I started like building this whole car and just acquiring little tidbits here, and I kind of knew what we wanted to do. And it was really nice because Omar came around and we hadn't had to build that car. But
So you got to put those together. You got to make it a product that, guys like me can sell for you. And that works out. Then we can both work together. You know what I mean? You're selling engines. I'm selling your mechanical fuel pumps and, your electric power steering kits and things like that. Yeah, that would be sick. Please do that. And when you figure out this Volvo pump, let's have that conversation too.
Right.
I want to be first in line.
Right.
Um,
It's kind of shocking how many, like some of this stuff, the amount of time and effort that goes into it is extreme. And
it's nuts.
I sit there and I'm like, dude, these guys are never going to pay this. Like, they're never going to pay what this costs for us to reproduce or manufacture. And then somebody will walk in and be like, that's so awesome. I want that. And I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, if you want that, it'd be like some crazy number. And they're like, okay, take my card.
It's hard to put a number on a problem being solved. If it just solves the damn problem, it's worth it to a lot more people than you realize. So that was one of the things that it took me a long time to really understand. So
right. I think a lot of the Subaru stuff and the Subaru drag parts are, and kind of the more race-oriented parts are definitely, our sales numbers are a lot higher there than what they are on the Evo stuff that we made, even though we have the Evo reputation and time. And I just attribute that back to the manufacturing numbers, right? Like, there's just so many more Subarus.
There's so many more Subarus.
Naturally, you have so many, X amount of enthusiasts out of that Subaru ownership crowd. Like, there's just
you're also getting a lot of, with like track oriented stuff, time attack oriented stuff starting to get crazier and crazier. We're starting to look at the drag guys and go, what did they do to, make this type of power and figure. So you're gonna start drawing in a bunch of guys like myself, like electric powered steering. That's not something that a lot of us were even thinking about up until recently. And now a bunch of us are staring at these Volvo pumps. I can tell you that sell like hotcakes. I can think of 5 people right now that want that kit.
Yeah, what's crazy? Onix here, by the way.
Yeah.
What's crazy about the power steering pumps, like, it's out there. We're not reinventing the wheel. What we're doing is making the wheel a lot nicer to grab. So so now we can have
kits are the best. I would much rather you guys figure out all the brackets and the fittings and the lines and hell yeah, dude. I don't want to deal with any of that shit. I just want to pay you money so it's done. Like, do that.
Yeah, and the way we're getting it to be controlled is everything be controlled by the ECU. So when you start the car, it takes power up, and then the more RPM you give, the less, because those pumps pull a lot of a lot of amps. So you just gotta find a way to control it right to where it feels just like stock and it works just like it should. That's the thing, because you can install it and it'll be like 80% all the time, and that's just annoying.
This is one of the things with I think a byproduct of green speed that a lot of people didn't really think was coming. And I'll argue this until I'm red in the face, that because that it really took a hit on those big power street cars, right? It made it hard to make a big power Mexico car that you could drive legally-ish. You know what I mean? So a lot of people started looking at standalones. A lot of people really started looking at making race cars. And then that opens up so many different avenues because people stopped making compromises to keep it a street car. So people are looking at these cars differently. And and there's a lot of them. And that's I think really what we would used to think would be a very like niche oriented race product is quickly becoming a lot less niche because I think there's more and more race oriented cars being built right now.
And also, since we're talking about standalone ECUs, we're actually coming out with some bolt-in stuff that David can talk about, which will help a lot of regular people install ECU and having no problems installing it with full. David, you keep going. Talk.
Nice.
I don't like talking until we put stuff into production, but since Onix is over here, it's feeling super secret
I
scroll.
mean, don't go too crazy with it,
No.
but you
No,
guys are you
the
setting up some
standalone
plug and
stuff
play?
It's one thing to like say like, oh, you can buy this Haltech or Motec or whatever, and you buy this jumper harness from Boom Slang, or there's half a dozen
Yeah.
other guys. For Subarus, there's a few less guys than there are for Evos, but everybody thinks like, oh, I just need to buy this $4,000 Motec with a harness and a wideband and just chunk it in the car. It's like, well, cool. Once you plug that in, like, where do you put the ECU? What is it doing? Is it just sitting on the floorboard? Is it just hanging out? And then the main thing is that the main idea behind it was because even for my technicians here, like to bring a car in and say put a standalone in the car, like it ends up being like an all day affair just to put an ECU in the car, make the brackets, make something to hold it that is permanent and good, not just cheap and zip tied up into the dash. And then wiring a handful.
Johnny Trains in the chat just goes zip tied to the HVAC box.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what you'd have to do, though. It was the truth.
Yeah, and that's what everybody was doing, right? Thank God that Motec put holes in their ECU for mounting, so you can put a zip tie through it.
Yep.
By the time you do that, and then you run some little BS harness out for like oil pressure and fuel pressure, you're sitting here and you got your technicians got at least half a day wrapped up into that. You're charging customer 4 or 5 billable hours, and then forget trying to tell one of your customers that you're selling an engine to over the phone, like, hey, just buy this Motec and build this quick little harness for these 2 pressure sensors. And so I was
but they're like, well, what is that? Like $200? Yeah, no, it's 1,000.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, buy this ECU kit for with 2 sensors for like $5,000, and then by the way, it's $1,000 just to bolt it in.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? And so I wanted to change that mainly for my technicians here, so that we could just move quick, right? Like if I can cut the price of an ECU installed and tuned here down $500, that's a big difference, right? So, me taking the time to make some brackets, one day and spend some time into looking at harness options and stuff like that. And so that's basically what we're working on is when I say a full turnkey solution, it means like my target audience for this, one, obviously shops for resale, but it's mainly to where I can send out like a mail order ECU kit, and Joe Schmo Bobby can take his ECU box out into his garage on a Saturday in the morning and bolt some stuff in with full color install guide and everything like that. Already has a base map loaded onto it, and I don't know, 2 hours or whatever, have the car up and running. And
that saves you a ton of headache. It saves that guy a ton of headache. Like, that's the answer, my guy.
Our prototype stuff right now, I can take into an STI. So like, we just had another demo car come through the other day, and I can take one of our the main ECU focus that we're working with is gonna be Haltech, and our kit for like a 2020 STI, turnkey, like full driving, full interior, floor mats in place and everything. I can put one of our elite package ECUs in there, mounted, plug and play with oil pressure and fuel pressure and flex fuel. If the sensors are already installed, obviously some stuff's got to move around to do the sensors, but the actual installed ECU and then our plug and play harnesses we're making for everything else, I can be in and out in an hour. Is what it takes.
And that's what it should be. And especially if you're using the same ECU all the time, Motec, Mtron, Haltech, whatever the hell you're doing, just make that simpler. And even if it seems simple, like people don't understand how much of a pain in the ass that stuff can be. It's worth it. It's for sure worth it. But then trying to sell it and explaining to somebody who doesn't really completely understand it, that would they're spending a small amount on a product that's going to make their lives a lot easier. No, I agree.
It's a ton of after support, from our end. And even if you don't do the after support, like somebody gets on, we won't name names, but the popular Motec guy orders his, AirTag or hashtag plug and play ECU, with a Motec and a patch harness, once the customer installs that, he's like, I need to tune this now. And then their tuner's sitting there like, oh, I need this pinout sheet. And they got to track that stuff down. And then every harness is a little bit different, and every person's a little bit different. Versus what we're doing, we're already going to provide the base map for your setup. It'll be fully configured for the sensors that we're selling for you, which, we want to sell like full turnkey with the sensors that you want to add and everything. And we have a ton of room for extra sensors. So we are appealing more towards like the basic user, but then also building into, I won't say full drag car like Gaparoo versus worth of sensors ready to go, but we'll be able to have the popular stuff: oil pressure, fuel pressure, exhaust back pressure, coolant pressure, flex fuel sensor, oil temperature, air temperature, all plug and play within the engine bay.
And no holes in the firewall.
Yeah, the only wire you're going to run through the firewall is going to be your wideband sensor. That's it.
Nice.
Everything else will be you're utilizing OEM factory connections in the engine bay. So that's what we're kind of
I dig it, man.
On right now.
Well, I want to bug you on a few other things. I know we keep coming back to Gaparoo, but there's some stuff I definitely want to chat about. Some of your products, some of our product.
Yeah.
You guys were the first ones, I think, outside of our drag car that used our rear end kit.
They actually made it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we actually, funny enough, when JJ wanted that some extra testing and feedback on it, he actually sent it to me to put in the WX for the FA car, and it actually went in the FA, and it got used in the FA. And I was like, holy crap, this is a lot of overkill, but this is so awesome.
No, so how did it... Are you guys running the spool version on that, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's got the spool.
So here's kind of a question I have on this. I'm going to just venture a guess that the car was probably a lot calmer at speed. It probably launched really well, but calmer at speed, especially between gears with that spool in there versus the the OEM diff or some sort of aftermarket limited slip. Am I wrong in saying that? Like, how did that work out for you guys?
Provide the feedback on that, because he actually drives Omar Gaparoo whenever it's going down the track right now. And although I think that since it did a couple days at like 1,000 on the stock rear end.
I've never broken a factory rear diff. I've actually cut really
not to brag or anything.
Not to brag or anything.
Not to brag. I just look, man. My shit don't stink.
I've cut like 1.3s all like a lot of times on the stock, but there's always that chance that you don't want.
Yeah.
Because it will happen. I just got lucky. But yeah, as soon as we put that diff in it, it's you don't think about it anymore, because I know in the back of my head that there's no way anything's gonna break back there.
You ain't breaking shit with that.
Yeah,
especially with a spool being in there. I don't know. I don't know what Subaru in existence.
You don't, because the spool actually will help you.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
I mean, if you think about it, it's like, it's a fully locked differential. So So one thing I see with the multi-link rear end cars is they get really wild up top. And don't get me wrong, you're going to get that with just a fairly flimsy sidewall on the tire and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The cars are going to move around, but your guys' VA, that Gaparoo looks really solid, especially on its faster runs. It looks real clean. Not only just leaving, but I usually see it in like the third to fourth shift is usually pretty gnarly in those cars. And did it calm it down?
The rear end, I'd say, definitely calmed down some of it. It's hard to tell, right? Because we're making so much power. And like you said,
it's probably just chaos in there anyway. But
it's one thing to have like the tire is definitely comes into the equation, but I think that what a lot of people, I know even more than I think, nobody's really taking the time to set the suspension up on these cars, right? Like, they'll sit there and be like, oh man, I just dumped $100,000 into this car to build this crazy build. And then they'll put like $2,000 coilovers on it and expect results right off the bat. And then that's when we see all these bouncing Broncos going down the track, and
That was the
they
next
were
question I
definitely
was going to
breaking
have for you. Is you guys have a lot of experience with multi-lane career end cars with the Evos and stuff like that going fast. How much of that translated over into making a VA work on track on a drag strip?
I mean, I have a handful of, I'll say, serious drag cars on the Evo side, but
Sure.
I don't have any bottom 8-second Evos running around either.
Sure.
We're definitely known for building some very reliable street cars on the Evo side.
Yeah.
80,000 mile, 650 horsepower cars.
Yeah.
Unheard of in the Subaru world for the most part. But we've always had a good intention and idea of where it needs to go. And I just say that we haven't had the time to take our own stuff to that level. And that, since Omar came on and I told him, I said, I think it's going to be make it or break it in the suspension side of stuff like anything else. And we really just need to spend the time to do it. And the downside is it's expensive. It's really expensive, And so we started off with, being kind of new to the Subaru drag side of what's available off the shelf for drag coilovers. We started off with one company's stuff and put that in there. And it's when Omar brought us the car, it had like $250 or $300. What are they? eBay. They were Gecko or something like that. They're green coilovers off of eBay, right? It was funny because when we won stick shift class at Texas 2K, the next 2K after we got the car here, and we won that event, was actually still on those same eBay coilovers, and 3 of the 4 were blown, like leaking oil. Yeah, but we still got the car down, cutting like high 130, 60 foots and 140s like every hit.
All right, this might get a little wild because I'm bringing Omar on right now.
Oh boy, here we go.
I'm sure this will get entertaining.
He's gonna say, "Don't mess with my coilovers." Oh no, he's gonna say.
Omar, what's up, buddy?
I know you did not just say I had eBay suspension on that car. You take that back right now, immediately.
We got pictures around here somewhere. Your geckos.
Yeah, I didn't get them off of eBay though.
Oh yes, man, I don't know. $300 is $300.
Yeah, no, they cost me $1,100 actually. Definitely not $300.
What? No way.
100%. I will find the receipt from 2018.
Brother.
Well, 920 maybe or some shit like that. It wasn't $300.
Was that $1,100 like Australian? Because that's like $35 US right now.
I am gonna go find the receipt from 2018. I will literally pull up my discontinued bank account. I would never put $300 suspension on my car ever. But yes, David is correct. They were like whatever, and they were blown.
So what did you guys go to after the not eBay coilovers?
What was that?
Like, what is it running on now to go fast? I'm interested to know. You don't have to let me in on spring rates or anything like that. I'm just interested to know. Feel? Okay, cool.
Yeah. We're working with Feel for a while for like some of our like just generic street car stuff. Just basic daily driver stuff. And
I figured it was going to be Feel or Fortune because you guys can get them custom built how you want them.
Well, yes and no. We talked with them, told them what we were doing with the car, and bought their, I'll use the air quotes again, drag spec setup.
Yeah.
External reservoir. Swift springs and yada yada yada. Immediately, we had a bouncing Bronco on our hands.
Yes,
and we were making changes, moving springs around, moving weight around, doing all kinds of stuff.
It is not easy to get a slick to work on these cars.
Well, yes,
I found that out. Let me put it this way. It doesn't work exactly how you think it would work. And I found that out the hard way a long time ago. We don't need to go into that story, but JJ knows exactly what I'm talking about. And the main
thing got fixed on all that real quick was that, and one thing that I was really just working with Omar is great because anytime I'm like, dude, we need to do this, and he may not even need to have understand it, but as long as I could explain it roughly in the term that he would get it, he'd be like, all right, makes sense. And then we would just go for it. And so, to an extent, we got kind of what we wanted when we wanted it. For data acquisition on that car it's wild. So right off the bat, as soon as I was like, no, I'm not gonna sit here. We play the suspension. We were doing street hits, testing right here in front of the shop, just 60 footing. It was like nothing, not going anywhere. It was just a waste of time. And I was like, dude, we got to change this. So immediately we stripped it all down, and we put shock travel sensors on all 4 corners. We have more tighter tolerance speed sensors everywhere on the car. And so we really get a ton of data going on in that car. So you know a little bit on the standalone world, but it's around 150 ECU, and we're nearing maxing out in inputs, which is like a lot. So that car has a ton of sensors and a ton of data acquisition on it, which is just, as long as you have the time to go through.
That's how you know you're going in the right direction. Literally, if you don't have data, you're making blind guesses at almost everything.
Oh, yeah. That was right off the bat. Being able to see your changes in, not just compression and rebound and dampening adjustments and everything, but being able to go in and say, oh, let's do a spring change, and then being able to see the data behind how the car moves and squats and how the front lifts and dropes. And it was game changing right off the bat. And then, we worked with our suspension company that we've been working with since then. And, a lot of people are like, oh, it went quick. We went from the time that we started campaigning that car with Omar, and we said, okay, we're on board. It's got a Kozmic logo on it, and then from that time until we went 8.0 was literally 1 year. It was like 12 and a half months or something like that to a T. And
but you're
in that time,
a lot of effort was put in that time.
Oh, yeah. So just in that time alone, the suspension was revalved 6 times.
Yes.
Right.
I love hearing this.
We swapped springs.
For those in the back, listen.
I don't know. We're at 40.
And I really Nav hit it right on the head. Nav from Prime's in the chat right now, and he hit it on. He's like, Meatwad's the MVP, taking advice and going through with it. So, I've worked at a shop, all right, and you're trying to help somebody develop something. When you're dealing with extremes like this, there's going to be development time. There's going to be cost involved into getting that developed. It's going to take time, and it's not going to be right the first time. Probably won't be the second or even the third when it comes to things like this. But you'll get there, and that is having a customer who understands that. That's actually rare. So that's really awesome, and I'm sure you guys kind of vetted that before you got involved with him. But
yeah.
You wouldn't get involved with somebody who doesn't have that sort of approach to this. You know what I mean? That is super sick that you guys have that with a customer with him, because it's actually rare.
Yeah. Oh yeah. To tell somebody like, hey, by the way, you need to buy these. And they're cheap compared to what we do as an end product now. But we need you to buy these $3,500 coilovers, and by the way, every time we want to make an adjustment, we need to spend, I don't know, $400, $500 plus some round trip shipping, revalving and doing a free spring change. And by the way, we're going to do that 5 times. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Omar wasn't expecting the 5 times, but, it takes what it took, But, and even at that, we're not using that now. So, our drag suspension now is actually built from a pen.
You still there? I think you broke up, or I lost you, or something.
Not.
Yep, we lost you for a second. I don't know if he said it's built by, and then it went quiet. I don't know if you don't want to let that info out.
No, sorry, there's a call coming in on the phone. But
okay.
Our production bag suspension that we're trying to work into long term is all going to be Penske base units.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's good stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But you're spending the money. You spend the money, right?
Well,
$500 with $5,000.
You gotta pay the cost to be the boss. That's how it works.
Yeah. So, but even that, there's no one size fits all on any of this stuff. Even if you buy a $5, $6, $7, $8,000 suspension off the shelf, it's not going to be perfect. Like, yeah,
No.
somebody can give you their recipe, but the tire, the driver, the clutch, like everything's going to influence all of that. And then being able to have the data acquisition and then obviously interpreting all the data to get you the results. And that's what we did. So, and
that's to make an 8-second pass. That same situation applies with any form of motorsports. Like it's you're gonna have to make changes.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because we said we got the feels doesn't mean that people should go out and buy those.
Yeah, they're great coilovers,
Yeah.
but you don't buy the drag off the shelf expecting to go 8.0 because that's not gonna happen.
No, it doesn't work that way.
So,
And we're working with a heavy car too, which was another problem in its own,
Yes.
Yeah, track
Heavy car with slicks. Track conditions are different no matter where you go. Long story short, what worked for me back in the day was I had a car local to me. He was a good buddy of mine, and I was working with Fortune at the time. And he was on a drag radial, so we actually had a decent sidewall, and I got that to work really well. And we were cutting actually fairly consistent 1/260 foots with it, which is pretty sick considering it was only running mid-9s.
For sure.
So like I got a whole bunch of people really excited, and a lot of these people wanted to run slicks. So I kind of got a big head about myself. I got my shit in order. This isn't going to be no big deal. I got that right in 2 or 3 shots. Okay, this should be fairly simple. Man, I got to be real. I never really had a chance to follow through with it, but I missed wildly on the on going to a slick.
Yeah, and also, if you see a lot of these drag cars, they're all running a big tire 26s. We're not even in 26. We're on the small tire.
Yeah. Honestly, there's probably a slight advantage to that.
There was a reason behind that, but
yeah.
And the PPG gearing is just, it's wrong, right? Like at the end of the day, it's wrong. Like we're all working with what we got to work with, but whoever sat down and said, you know what, let's put all this gear ratio together, and then everybody uses 26. Like no, that.
So you guys are in a PPG dog box, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. So when I put my WX together,
really, really want to chat about is you guys' lockout shifter. I would really like to know some more about that. That is super cool.
Yeah, that came out of necessity. So it actually came from the WX. It's funny because like half of the R&D products and stuff for the drag side is from the WX. But my WX is even the red car I did it a couple of times, and then the blue car the only car I've ever 1-2-1'd in my entire life is any Subaru on a PPG dog box.
Okay.
Yeah, ever. And the first time I did it, I was like, man, I can't believe I just did that. And then sure enough, it was, I think the same day I did it again. And we were at the track testing. The first time I did it, I was like, man, luckily everything sounds fine and runs fine. And luckily I shit it a little early, so it wasn't too crazy. And then the next pass I did it, or not the next pass after that, I did it again and shattered the front diff and exploded it. And I was like, well, that sucks. And then, so I put that back together with another diff and fixed it. And then I think the next time we took the car back out to another test day, I did it again, twice or 3 times.
Yeah, and I was like,
blew the front differential up again.
Yeah, and I told him, I was like, David, I think we should. You want me to build a lockout shifter? He's like, for what? There's no reason to. I'm like, I'm just gonna do it, and then you figure it out. So then I started jigging some stuff up, and then David's like, okay, it's a good thing to do it. And he started messing with it on his own because I don't have time because I'm always busy. And then he came out with his new contraption that everybody's talking about.
Yeah, but basically, I said we gotta do this, or else I'm never gonna race this WX again. Like I'm over it after breaking it, back to back. Luckily, we didn't have like crazy catastrophic failure, but I was just over it. And that's why the WX started sitting, because I was like, I'm not doing anything until this is done and fixed. So we actually,
if you don't mind me asking, Because I'm not exactly sure how that mechanically works. Is that like basically just building gates so it can't, or it, like, where is this thing located? How does it work? Like,
it
kind of
goes-
explain that to me.
It goes inside the car, and it's basically, yes, we're kind of more or less, the general theory is kind of gating the shifter or guiding it in a direction that we desire. So,
Sure.
which we kind of long term tested everything on Omar's car, obviously, and I'd say it was pretty instrumental in having the faith in the car whenever you go to shift. Because obviously we're strain shifting the car with strain gauge and clutchless. And so you need to know that what's coming is what's actually coming.
Oh, and our
Yeah.
testing at World Cup when we ran that 8.0, that was actually on a prototype 3D printed piece.
Yeah.
That it broke, and then I had to go to one of my friends, Aaron Lopez, H22, Fuel 22. He had some pieces of metal, and I kind of like sandwiched it together to make it work, and then that thing just works. And then we came out with an actual piece that we're gonna sell, but we're still
in billet.
in billet.
Yeah, we went to World Cup on our I don't know, third or fourth revision, and we had tested here before we left. And it was like, oh, this thing works, and we couldn't get through the billet shop or through the CNC shop to get anything done fast enough for the event. I was like, well, I guess we're running the plastic version.
Yeah,
and so that's what we did. And the guys who are at World Cup, I obviously were kind of trying to re-innovate some of the shifter or Subaru shifter side of things. So I didn't want anybody to just go knock it immediately.
Yeah.
So the whole time at World Cup, we're throwing shirts over the shifter.
The only person that saw it with his eyes was Rolly. He's the only person that saw it.
So when's that product gonna hit?
We have our first batch coming out of CNC any day now. Had some delays at the CNC with some downed equipment, and so everything kind of set back. And we've had a lot of stuff actually getting manufactured right now. More fuel pump kits, mechanical pump kits, and some other stuff. And these they just got in line whenever I had the design kind of perfected and finished. So it took a while because we needed to confirm fitment, and then we ended up having to make a modification to get them to fit the GD chassis with the same shifter. So to try to only offer one part number. So which we were able to do, and we got that done. So we're just waiting on them to come through CNC, and then we kind of on the fence if we should anodize them or not. And
I have to look at it to understand how it mechanically works, but I'm assuming it's locking out only going up in gears. What about going?
So
what do you do when you need to go back down?
So it has like a I call it a collar, but basically
like a shift lockout.
Yeah. So basically, just like the factory STI reverse lockout, think that, but significantly bigger, like 3-inch in diameter. And so that stays right below the shift knob with a big spring pushing it down. And so, to go down in gears, you have to lift that up with your two fingers, which it takes some effort. If you got some weak little hands, you probably have to two-hand it.
I'm just wondering if you could set it up on a solenoid, so if I went into the brakes into a corner, I'd be able to go down.
Oh, no.
You only got four gears. Sorry.
They make that now. It's called a sequential.
Yeah, well, then it kicks me out of class.
Yeah.
Man, you guys are no fun. Maybe we can develop something later.
I mean, enough thought behind it, maybe, but
Nev, I could feel the letdown in Dewey's voice.
Yeah, right.
You ain't wrong, dude.
Yeah. I'd say the tolerance for it, like, even though it's not impossible to still get the car to miss shift. Like we sent out one of my ones out of my car, and I loaned it out to Josh Bader, and to get some feedback from him, and and he gets everything working. He's like, man, this thing's awesome. This thing's so cool. He's like, it's so nice having that feeling of just not having to worry about it. And because he's
that confidence in knowing where you're about to throw that gear is where it's gonna go.
So like, he texts me, he's like, hey dude, the car 121. I'm like, no, sorry, impossible. But sure enough, it did, and it's because the base actually came loose from the car. And he had installed it a little bit differently than I do here, and I don't have install guide and everything like that. But long story short, we figured all that out. But the shifter, the base had come just a little bit loose, but because the tolerance of the shifter itself, left right, is so tight on gear changes, just a little bit goes a long ways.
Well, it'd have to be.
Yeah, and
It
so
isn't like a STI shifter has a whole lot of if you were to draw out the gates, they're extremely close.
Yeah, I'm actually reading somebody's comments here. So
yep,
the one guy, when you disengage the lockout, is stay disengaged. So if you want to drive around a daily car, you'd have to unscrew your shift knob and take that spring and the collar out, and then you could do normal driving around. The box does block you from technically only fifth. It still has the ability to go over and hit reverse, so you could hit sixth at the same time. But we needed. I didn't want to have to push the drag cars around in the pits and to back out of a trailer spot.
No, it makes sense.
So, but yeah, if you didn't want it, you could just take the knob off and take the collar out, and then full normal working. Johnny Trans, the Subaru shifting mechanism has some movement. Oh, it for sure does.
Yeah.
So when we do these, we tell the guys to put those the solid unions in, and obviously aftermarket bushings everywhere. The kit comes with a new shifter itself, the actual shift rod. Is part of it, and then that front, or I don't know what you call it, the bushing that goes on the shifter.
It would be super sick if somebody who wasn't that shitty company where you don't really want to mention their names, Torque Solutions, made that solid bushing outside of them. And or have you seen the dark matter shifter that uses that that the rod is basically swapped out? If you were to just sell that, you would get a whole new level of people who would want to get in on that too, aka me.
Right. I mean, if only there was a 3-letter word company that had a whole CNC shop to make these solid shift bushings.
Yeah, I try. I try really hard. Those 3-letter companies, man, I'm telling you.
Right.
So that's why I don't know, maybe I'll just blow up other people and I'll just sell the product. I can do that too.
Yeah, right. So no, I haven't looked at it because as much as you don't like the other guy, their solid bushing thing is what we use in the cars right now.
Dude, it's what I'm using too. I just hate giving them money.
Yeah, I know. It is what it is. So
it's like riding a moped. Everyone does it. We just don't like to talk about it.
Exactly. So, let's talk a little bit about the future of Kozmic. What are you guys' plans? Obviously, you're trying to produce some really cool product, which again, I think is sick as hell. You guys got some really sick product you're working on. You got any interesting projects that are coming up? I saw you were helping somebody out in enthusiast class in Global Time Attack. You guys got any plans to maybe get a little more serious into Time Attack?
We actually have a pretty wide road course customer base. We have Greg Formosa runs around in the Evo with crazy anime or whatever library all over it.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So that's
great. I my bad. I totally cars. That was one of those. I'm one of those Subaru guys, so
right. Yeah, and then we got Zach Sober is the orange STI, which he's actually out at Pikes Peak right now, and racing the peak with the car. So he did practice this week or week before last, and I think they were running this weekend too. This past weekend, I think they were making some rips up the mountain. So we just put that car on one of our R&D Haltech packages. It's on R3.
Nice.
With full fuel pump control through the PDM and everything. Again, all plug and play. So,
cool.
Just kind of more long-term testing for some of our components and everything. But he's raced that car at a Super Lap Battle, podium finished a couple times with our tuning and track support, and alignment and everything we do here in house. But
Nice.
Evo side, not really too many like running competitively, but we do a lot of course Evos that are more just weekend play toys and fun personal vehicles, not like big competing race event cars. Yeah, we got one Evo 10 here that he's local to Atlanta Motorsports Park. We're doing a rebuild on it right now. It's getting sequential and Motec and some other stuff to dry sump kit running out there at I guess Atlanta Motorsport, or not Atlanta, Road Atlanta. It's like in his backyard. And so I guess he gets to go out there like every other weekend with the car. So
it's hard to keep a car together on that track of any 4-cylinder variety, just because the straightaways are really long. It's just a ton of load.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we have some experience there. So we've done a lot of let alone half-mile and mile racing in our past. But Greg from West's Evo, and Zach's Subaru. We actually, was it 2 years ago? Was a Global Time Attack Grid Life, one of the events out there. We took both those cars out there. I trailered both of them.
Yeah,
car trailer to race out there.
I remember seeing the Evo for sure, and that thing's that's been at quite a few events. I dig that car.
Oh, he makes a lot of events this last year or two. He's definitely made a push to travel and enjoy it. So bought himself a little small enclosed trailer, and he's a true enthusiast. Like just self-funded and having fun and going for it. So it's pretty wild. That car, I'd have to find out exactly. I think it has like 160,000 or 170,000 miles on the factory engine.
Nice.
Yeah, it's still trucking.
Yep.
And it's an SST car. So it's got the.
Yeah, I'd love to see you guys come out more. It was cool talking to you guys in Kansas. It kind of sucks that event's gone now. That was probably the best grid life event in the middle of the country that existed. Now there just isn't one right now. I think they're working towards it, but
right.
Yep.
Sounds like the story of all the tracks.
But in the shop, we have 2 drag Subarus that we're working on right now. Yeah, 2 other ones.
We've teased them around a few places here and there. Well, Onix teases them around. He likes stirring the hype train every now and then. I'm more of a brag on our results once we've done them type of person, but the internet doesn't work that way these days. So
that, and plus, honestly, a lot of people really get involved. They really like seeing the build,
Right.
Hey, again, if you get a chance, I'd post them up in the IAG Subaru Insiders Lounge. Love seeing those. So especially build content, that stuff's great. Even if it's just sneak peek stuff.
Yeah, so we got those 2 cars should come out later this year, and they're both.
They got them.
We'll call them Gaparoo V3. So
okay.
they kind of taking things we've learned there and making even more changes, and then they're both significantly lighter cars. So they're not going to go 7's first pass out or anything like that. They're going to be worked up just like Omar's car was. We didn't go out and crank it to 80 psi right off the bat. So these cars will start out the same way. Both owners are driving, and so it's one thing to get the car to there, but it's another thing to get the driver there. So it's a little different than driving a 600 horsepower street car.
They're different animals, man. So I heard something come out of you guys' mouth earlier that kind of blew my mind. All right. I heard you guys had In-N-Out Burger, but you're in Texas. So I thought you had to eat Whataburger. So you guys are from Texas. I need to hear what's up.
That's
neither.
Just me.
No, yeah,
neither.
That's an Andrew thing, but he spent some time in California, so I blame it on that. But yeah, they built one here by the shop not that long ago, but Whataburger for life.
I may go to In-N-Out 2 to 3 times a week. So yeah, there's that.
So,
but he goes there by himself. So
my trip to Laguna last year, we decided we were going to do both. So we had In-N-Out while we were in California, and then we went down to Tombstone, Arizona for a couple days, then came through Texas, and we did Whataburger on the way through Texas. And I got to be real. My take on it is Whataburger killed In-N-Out.
All right.
Yeah,
Did you
I
eat it?
wouldn't help because I don't eat either of them. So, I'm a home food type person.
Yeah.
If I go out, it'll be like Five Guys. Get that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
burger.
sometimes you got to go out, though. It just
Yeah.
is what it is. Greg at Kozmic says you're a vegan.
Did you eat the In-N-Out at In-N-Out, or did you take it to go? Because you got to eat it there.
No, I ate at In-N-Out. I know how to do In-N-Out.
Just
I've
checking.
had
A lot of
In-N-Out a
people-
few times. It's just Whataburger was great.
I think Whataburger's fries are better, but the burger to me just doesn't compare. You know,
Be careful, Andrew. You're gonna make enemies right now.
That's his
we're
problem.
we're here to agree to disagree on certain things.
I guess.
But anyway,
So,
back to the main topic at hand here. Jumping back to the shifter lockout. If anyone's interested in getting one, hit me up. I'll get you on the list. They're going to be here soon, and they're going to go quick. So half of them are already spoken for.
You guys need to hurry up and figure out what dealer pricing is going to be on that, so I can work on selling that for you guys.
Line them all.
Yeah, right.
Hey, you better watch out. We might.
Actually, most of the first round's kind of already spoken for.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably going to have that for the first couple, actually. But if you guys ever end up, getting into a position to do that, I'd be more than happy to have that conversation with you. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know. You guys got anything else interesting going on or any other products that you want to plug here real quick?
Not really.
Yeah.
Daniel, let's talk about methanol and Subaru and how it doesn't work. It doesn't work unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Then it works great.
Yeah, we can go down the questions right now if you want.
Yeah, I mean, we got a few. Some of it's a little tongue in cheek, like Samuel. I'm pretty sure was that was more of a sarcastic thing, but I don't know how many actual. We didn't get a ton of questions that we didn't nail that weren't we didn't grab right away. So you guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to pop them in the chat right now. We'll take those.
How do you monitor the mixture? Motec LTC with an NTK sensor. Read the methanol just fine. But you got to spend $600 on a real wideband, not an AEM.
Yeah, AM suck.
Yeah, don't play around with your sensors for sure, especially
play
at
around
that
with
level.
your car if you're building.
I don't know why anybody would want a $200 wideband to tune their, I don't know, $10,000 engine. But that's just me.
Some people's kids, man, they don't understand. They really don't understand that data is everything. And it doesn't matter what type of crazy ass car you're building, data is everything.
Mr. Johnny Trans, you are right on the Ballinger wideband, except I'll save you some headache. If you go wire one of those into a Motec car and you have closed loop fueling turned on, popular, air quote, Motec packages for the Subaru do not have a closed loop delay time, and the Ballinger does not come online. And, basically when it's not online, reports like, I don't know, insanely lean, like 18.0. So it'll just start drowning the car in fuel until the sensor comes online, and then it'll sit there and swing hardcore the other way. Ask me how I know.
But don't really ask because you know.
Yeah.
That sounds like a real pain in the ass.
But real Motec firmware, have proper delays built in. So low key subtle plug on a Subaru editioned Pro Drag firmware for the Motec that we're also going to be releasing, which is the same Motec firmware that we run on Gapario.
Brother.
So, yeah.
You guys are
you can actually get it right now as long as you don't need CAN bus functions. I haven't finished incorporating all of the CAN bus functionality for the street cars in for like the 08 up stuff. So if you're building a car that doesn't need CAN bus function, like a full real deal drag car, then we can get you in right now.
Yep, we sell a lot of Motec here.
Yeah, you guys do.
A lot. Even our own personal cars have Motec.
Yep.
Motec or no tech.
For
I think
sure.
I think I think you can't go wrong with Motec. I do think there are other options.
I think you can go wrong for sure because there are definitely
Well, no,
limited
I should say
options
this.
on the
There,
Subaru
you
side of it.
can go wrong if you do it improperly. It's just like a set of coilovers. Like,
Yeah.
if you set it up improperly, it's going to be shit. The hardware's there to do it.
Right.
Yeah. But
Dewey,
that's, what's up?
I want you to do something for me. I want
Sure,
you to
what do you
start
need?
a post because a guy on Instagram got all up in my shit. Sorry, we're not allowed to curse
No,
because
yeah, you
obviously
are. Party
okay,
on. I
cool.
don't care.
Because we have the tag for the world's fastest Subaru, right, with the 184 mile an hour pass. And he
Okay.
proceeds to start yelling at me and talking about, I don't think it's Brumby. I think it's someone else. Now, he did send a video, and these motherfuckers did 203 miles an hour at 7.3. But it's a rear-wheel drive, automatic Subaru. I don't know what on God's name it is. I can always send it to you on Instagram.
Yeah.
But I said to the guy, I was like, hey, man, that's insane, and that's super impressive. But in my opinion, you're
At
taking
what
away
point
from
does
what
it
a
stop
Subaru...
being a Subaru?
Right, exactly. If
I
it's
had this
all-wheel...
argument the other day on a totally different topic, but I agree with you. Okay? Now, what I'm going to tell you what the other side of this is. So, this is kind of... I got to watch how I say this because we just kind of started a relationship with them. But I really appreciate what Roger Clark Motorsports did back in the day. I'm sure a bunch of you guys saw the Gobstopper 1 and Gobstopper 2. Those things were sick, right? And from a time attack standpoint, which is stuff I do, these cars are on a different level. I'm just in love with them. But the Gobstopper 3 is a BRZ shaped thing. Okay, it's EJ powered, but it's completely tube frame. It has absolutely nothing to do with a Subaru. At what point does it stop being a Subaru? And like what you're saying right there is the same concept. At what point does it stop being a Subaru? And I think there has to be a conversation about this. At what point do these cars stop being cars? And it was one of the things that I used to watch the shit out of Street Outlaws. You know what I mean? But at a certain point, those cars stopped being cars. You know, they started turning like a Pro Mod isn't like, that's not really a street car. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here?
Well,
Right,
that
'cause
comes
a
down
lot of
to
people don't
who's
know.
making the rules.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the problem is there aren't rules. So who gets to even say what it is or what it isn't? Like, I
that's why
think
they have the
RCM's
NK
car is
record.
really cool, and I think it's one of the fastest Subaru powered vehicles on the planet. And that guy could even go as far as to say this is the fastest Subaru powered, vehicle. I think that's fair. But is it a Subaru? If the thing's tube frame or whatever and rear wheel drive, like at what point is it a Subaru? I don't
I
know.
told the guy, I was like, listen, man, if I was like, we put a sequential and gapper and turn a rear wheel drive and cut another 500 pounds on that, I was like, I'd hate to say something silly on the internet that we'd go sixes, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure we can get that high. But I'm like, dude, my car still, look at the license plate. That thing's still registered and insured. So technically it's still a street car.
Now there's another side to this argument though. Okay. At what point is it you're just putting limits on yourself onto what you are willing to modify in the car? So like, let's look at Roger Clark Motorsports again. Okay, they run in a time attack class that kind of allows them to do whatever the f they want. But anywhere else in the world, that car wouldn't be legal. World Time Attack, Grid Life, Global, you name it. Anywhere else on the planet, they would put that into some like side exhibition class or in Grid Life, we would refer to it as super unlimited. It's not even unlimited because there's only so much of the unibody and stuff you can get away with. So in Time Attack, there kind of is rules for that. I don't know if that exists within the drag world, but it should. And I think there should be some form of classification to that. And yeah, I think that's a very, very fair argument. I think it's a very fair argument.
And for us, we just follow whatever event that we're trying to run. So like,
sure,
Omar's car it was class legal. The whole goal was to eventually end up going to World Cup. And so the whole time we built the car, we went towards that record or towards that rule set. Like we didn't put nitrous on the car, not because we didn't want to, and trust me, Omar wants to for sure. He'll be the first to tell you, like, why don't you put nitrous on my car yet? But we weren't allowed to do that in the class that we wanted to run a World Cup. So
Yeah,
I don't want to waste my time going and fighting against stuff that we'll then have to reinvent the wheel on again later. So, for the drag side of it, pick whatever event you want to go to that has the, I don't know, we'll say tightest rule set, and then we go, work backwards from there.
Yeah. And that's the nice thing about rule sets in general. Honestly, you feel like they're limiting, but they're actually not. What they do is give you the size of the sandbox you're allowed to play in. I deal with the same thing in the class I run or anybody else deals with. But when you throw all of that out, at what point does it stop being what it originally was? And that's where you have to ask yourself, like with RCM's car, I haven't seen Old Boy's car, but if you could send me that link, I'd really like to see that. Maybe we carry this conversation on, because I'd like to take this conversation to the Insiders Lounge and argue about when does it stop being a Subaru? You know what I mean? I think that's an awesome argument, and I don't think there is a clear answer.
Yeah, and when we went to World Cup, we went from a 76 to a 67 just to fit in that class.
Yeah.
And we went 830s. I think we went 830s or 820s on a 67.
30s.
Yep.
Yeah.
830s. And then at the track, that was the new hype was the next gen 73.9 R, whatever. And then we slapped that thing and it went 8.0, and the car still can go faster. There's still a lot of room left on that turbo, which just didn't get there.
So forgive me again, because I am not big into the drag scene at all. So World Cup and Texas 2K are probably the two largest import-based drag events in the country, if I were to venture a guess here.
And FL2K.
I'd say
FL2K also is huge, and I agree with you.
Last couple
So
years,
we've got these three. How much do the rules overlap? Are they just running on? Are they each running on their own program?
Texas 2K and FL2K run a pretty, there's a lot of crossover classes that are similar or the same, or they have what's called crossover classes, where they'll let certain class build cars for one event race in certain classes in the other event. World Cup, there's a lot of crossover classes there too.
Sure.
But Florida 2K and Texas 2K are definitely, I don't know how to describe it. They're more open per se. There's not as many platform-based restrictions.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you built, what they call a street car, or you didn't. You built a race car, and other than that, it's kind of like, is it just stick shift or not? And then that's really there's very few classes unless they are actual specific ones like GTR class and stuff like that.
Yep.
Versus World Cup is literally just really tight knit rules for any type of car that you want to bring, and then where it would fit into those classes. So they both have gotten insanely fast though. Like this year, they just released the first round qualifying minimum ETs. So they started this a couple years ago, where before you can even register, you have to send a video to them that your car can go X speed or X ET already, so that you're registering a car that's proven. It has done this before. And so now this year at World Cup, for round one entry to get into any of the classes, every class is a 7-second pass minimum.
Which
so
is
799 minimum. Even the slowest class, 799.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are close as hell. How mad were you that? How mad were you that it said 805 and not 799?
We can actually make it on the second round. Second round was 80 something, which we can make it in the second round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
they took away the class that we built the car for, which is originally it was called True Street, and then they turned it into a Mean Street. And now that's gone. That they nixed that class from the equation. So if we were to take another car like that to World Cup, we would have to step up into the next class, which it's a pretty significant jump. Like a 799 is kind of slow, and it's like obviously we all want to go, we want to have fun, and I call World Cup it's the Super Bowl. Like you're there.
That's you guys' Daytona.
Yeah, like you see so many people there, it's insane, and it's life changing. If you've never been before, anybody listening, you need to go. Like even go and spectate.
Yep.
And it's amazing. as far as drag racing goes. And so just to go was an accomplishment, and to make it, and then let alone to go rounds, was really cool too. But naturally, we want to take the car, especially traveling that far, like to an event where like we may know that we're not going there to win, but like we want to not be already planning to be voted off the island first pass.
Yeah.
We want to do okay in the class. We'll bring a knife to a gunfight. So, it'll be interesting if we go back, and we have intentions to go back, but we're gonna have to sharpen.
Let's say, as a car builder, okay, and as a race car builder, do you prefer a more open rule set, or are you a little happier with it being like maybe the sandbox is a little smaller, so it's kind of easier to work within that? Like, what do you prefer?
I think we like challenges.
I mean, the tighter rules are fun, because I think that starts it tightens up the field, right? Like, and that's the whole reason why they do all that, and why they do the minimum ETs, and for World Cup, if you haven't seen their rule sets before, they are pretty tight. Like, they have separate rule sets for 4-cylinder, auto trans, manual trans. Different weights are allowed, different turbos. Like, it's kind of dialed in, and they've done that through every year's progression and changes. And they watch how the cars progress and what cars are going too fast at an event, and then figure out what setup they're doing, and maybe handicap them a little bit next year, because they want the best drag racing possible. They want side-by-side racing, right? Like, it's one thing that
that's the show. You're trying to show that.
Right. And you go out there with the, bazooka, and you bust everybody down. Sure, it's fun, but it's not fun for the other guy.
No.
If we can,
it's really not fun for the crowd. And you got to think, they got to put asses in seats. That's actually what the show's about, is putting asses in seats.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's definitely, like I said, if you haven't been out there, it's awesome. And you're getting betting in the stands and side-by-side racing.
Yeah.
Like, the number of passes on cars out there that are like so insanely close in time is wild. Like, they're sitting there going off of winning on 100.
And a lot of that's due to that rule set.
Right, exactly. So I like that. I think it's nice, because yes, it's like restrictive towards what you can do with the car, but at the same time, it takes some of the question and what you're going to do out of it, and it lets you kind of use your mind to figure out where you're going to try to build an advantage, right? And like where you're going to try to get ahead, working with the same rule set that everybody else is. And then naturally, driving skill and ability comes into play too.
Yeah. No, I tend to agree. I was just interested to see somebody who's like really involved with a different type of sport, if they felt the same way. Like, I think one of the things that makes, the time attack class that I run in, it makes it really interesting, because we have cars coming from all sorts of different angles, but the rule set actually keeps us really close. We've got STIs and Evos, sure, but we also had like a Mercedes AMG GT. We've had McLarens in our class. We got Supras. We've got all sorts of crazy shit. And our times are all right on top of each other due to a rule set that keeps us all fairly close. And it makes it interesting, and it makes it interesting for other people to follow. It makes it more interesting to race in, and it really brings a challenge on how you can build something to be the best it can within said rule set. And it's not easy, but honestly, I think it's better that way, because if you just are running wide open, it's who's more willing to chop their car to pieces, and or who brings more cubic dollars to the table.
Oh yeah, there's cubic dollars definitely come into play.
Yes, cubic dollars is the end all of everything. I don't care what you're driving. Guys, this has been fun. We gotta call it at some point, but I think this was great. I would love to do this again, especially as you guys get more products and stuff coming out. Maybe we can do this again after you guys, go set some new records and kick some more ass. Or maybe I'll meet you up at the track sometime and we'll do one live. That would be fun too. But if people were to try to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do it?
If you want to try,
And email always works best for everything, just because there's always somebody that's gonna be checking that computer all the time. So, but no,
Every
we do have
morning.
a full front staff with phones and all the above. But it's not uncommon that multiple lines are ringing and going on hold. We don't have an IAG call center. We'll say that.
No, because you're a shop.
yeah. So if you have any questions, concerns, whatever, give us a shout. Leave an email at sales@cosmicmotorsports.com, and try not to send technical questions because we might not tell you.
Leave a
Facebook,
phone number. We'll call you.
Yeah, leave your phone number. We'll call you back. My PayPal is
So, what's your
Facebook, Instagram, all that good
Facebook,
stuff.
Instagram. I've always had really good luck at getting a hold of you guys real quick on Facebook. Even though you've turned around and said, "Hey, get a hold of me this way" or whatever, is somebody replies. So that's something you really don't get with a lot of shops. I'll be honest. So
yeah. Andrew is he's on all that stuff.
he does a good job.
Yeah.
So
We'll keep him
props
around.
Yeah, he's worth keeping around at least another 20 minutes.
Even after the in and out.
Yeah,
comment,
and as Omar already posted, follow him on Instagram too, Gaparoo at Gaparoo. So
yes, if you want to follow Gaparoo in general,
if you like
Gaparoo is
motorcycles,
awesome.
definitely follow his Instagram because he was low.
Omar is just entertaining in general.
If you need any cars transported, contact him. He can get some cars, motorcycles transported, and hopefully he can get Gaparoo back up.
Well, Gaparoo's up. Get her back out to the track.
Get her back out to the track.
She's hanging out. Wait.
Awesome. All right, guys. Like I said, it's been fun. It's been real fun, and yeah, we'll do this again sometime. Again, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for taking. I know you guys are busy as hell. Thank you for taking some time and sitting down with us. And I really appreciate it. I know the people listening are gonna appreciate it. This was a fun one, and hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe a year from now.
Maybe a year from now. Yeah, let's wait at least 365 days. I'll start asking right now.
Yeah. No, you can start asking tomorrow. Then we'll get it a year from now.
Yeah. All right, sounds good. All right, folks. Hope you had a good time and maybe accidentally learned something. If you could do us a solid and please subscribe. And I can't stress this enough. Share. Share the link to the podcast. Tell people about the podcast. Come on the podcast. It's we the more the merrier, and the more people we have, the more guests we can have, the more fun we can have with this. We want to make this a giant happy family. So thanks, guys.